Half-Life 1 Xen might be the most controversial part of any section in any Half-Life game. Some players hate it, others love it. The main accusation launched against Xen is that the platforming is too difficult, it feels rushed and uninspired, it was indeed rushed, and it's overall too hard to play through. Interloper is indeed hard, especially combat-wise, and I did include it in my hardest combat section in Half-Life video. But isn't a game supposed to ramp up the difficulty before it ends anyways? Sure, the game does not just become more difficult, it also changes some movement aspects that the player was accustomed to, since the gravity in Xen is more floaty than on Earth, and thus the jumps as well feel more floaty and you can jump longer distances. Because of this, once we land on the first platform in the Xen chapter, most players are gonna feel a sense of disorientation and confusion, which might frustrate them. But guys, let's reflect on how Gordon Freeman has just been teleported to a distant alien world. Isn't this sense of confusion justified? And isn't it cool that the game not only confuses the player visually, since everyone was very accustomed to the constricting Black Mesa corridors and now the player is thrown in the openness of Xen, which presents even different color palette compared to Black Mesa, but it also confuses the player game mechanic wise. As I've already said, the jumps feel very different. Overall, if you don't get assailed by a vertical phobia, jumping from platform to platform is not too hard, and it's up to you to decide if you want to execute risky jumps or not. The only gripe that I have with Xen jumps is that losing HP is almost a certainty. To not lose a single HP, you need to be either very patient or very skilled. However, in Xen, there are these magnificent and awe-inspiring regeneration pools, and my recommendation is to fill your HP every time you stumble upon one of these. The Xen chapter also introduces these weird lamps which are as sturdy as an HSU tank. Finding your way inside the cave is not an easy task, but the player should be accustomed to the Half-Life level design by the end of the game. This part is comparable to the surface tension section around the minefield, where you need to find your own path through the cracks of a rock. What is cool about this small and secluded cave graphic design wise is the contrast it makes with the wide and infinite looking exterior of Xen. Getting inside the cave almost feels warm and welcoming, especially after having taken so many leaps of faith from one platform to another out there in the wide and cold space. The puzzle inside the cave is very simple and intuitive. Open the fungi, make the butterfly fly by breaking them free from the weird organic cage, and watch as these magical butterflies open a portal straight to the Gonarch layer for you. The Gonarch instantly greets us with some melodic yet agonizing wails, and it doesn't matter how much empathy you feel for him, because you will have to shoot him down to death. I'm not the biggest fan of the Gonarch graphic design, but I guess it encapsulates well the figure of the mother of all headcrabs, and the sound design in this section is what makes this level stand out in my opinion. In fact, the shrilling and moaning of the Gonarch really captures the pain of a mother who is trying to protect their prowl and its nest from, well, a cruel interloper such as Gordon Freeman. The trickiest part of this fight takes place in the final section. I might in fact argue that the jump from the tunnel to the inside of the nest might confuse newer players who don't know how to avoid the fall damage. The solution is to land on the net instead of just dropping to the ground, although it is not really made clear from the graphic design of this section, and my advice is to land on the thicker part of the net. eliminate the Gonarch by making him explode, and the player is able to proceed to Interloper thanks to a teleporter buried underground. Here we are, inside the final level of the game, before the final boss fight with the Nihilanth. Interloper starts very similarly to Xen, with the player not really knowing which path to take, but now the way out is the same as before, and it's a teleport, but it's not hidden inside a cavern, but it's in clear view on a remote and small island, over which alien mantas are flying. I really like how the path in this level is hinted by these cool alien creatures flying close to the teleporter. We had already seen mantas in surface tension, but only from afar. This time the excitement grows because we can deduce that we will have to ride their back to progress into the level, and I mean, isn't this a cool set piece? Another cool part about the initial section of Interloper is how there are two ways to get to the end goal. The first and most safe way is to enter the cavern just like I'm doing in the gameplay, and this cavern is very cool looking, you know. Instead, the second path, which might trick the player to be the primary one, consists in getting propelled up in the sky by these sphincter looking holes, which are quite weird, and here you gotta hope that a platform or a manta catches you, making this method both very deadly and unreliable. If you think, like I used to do back in 2012, that this is the only way to progress, of course you're gonna hit Xen and smash your keyboard at the same time. I want to also add how, in my opinion, the progression from Xen purely platforming section to Interloper's platforming section mixed with combat is an example of good level design. In fact, in Interloper, while jumping from one platform to another, you also have to shoot down the alien controllers and vortigons. Of course, aiming gets harder on moving platforms, and as a consequence, new players might find combat frustrating here. But wait, even new players who are not that good at aiming at floating enemies are not put in front of this challenge without a previous taste of what it means to shoot alien controllers. In fact, I argue, the final section of Lambda Core serves to prepare the player to this part and the later parts of Interloper. After all, Xen does not seem so badly designed, right? The teleporter brings us inside an alien factory where the Vortigons are supposed to be friendly, but they always shoot at me. Whatever, I enjoy slaying these fuckers. Anyway, finding your way inside the factory is pretty straightforward, and I particularly like how to get to the assembly line in the first room. You have to make use of the same elevator twice by jumping on different parts of it. The difficulty of Interloper, in my opinion, consists mostly in the hefty amount of enemies thrown at you, and in the platforming section in the final room, where you have to reach the eye-shaped teleporter to greet the Nihilanth. The platforms in the final room move very fast, and with both the vortigons and controllers shooting at you if you're low HP, this part can become hell on earth, since aiming is pretty much impossible on the spinning platforms. I'm sure every new player hates this section, but you know, I like a fair spike in difficulty, and I think it's a fair challenge because the game slowly prepares you for Xen's difficulty. Also, let's not forget that quick save and quick loads are a thing, making everything more manageable, even in the most difficult games ever. So, what's the most annoying platforming section in Xen, actually? Well, according to me, the award goes to the Nihilanth boss fight, and this applies especially to the first chamber the boss teleports you to. In fact, if you ever get caught by the green ball that the boss invokes and throws at you, in case you're not hiding behind one of the triangular pylons, you will certainly be sent into a room that look like the guts of a beast, perhaps belonging to the Nihilanth itself. You will have to make your way up to the teleporter slowly, by jumping up either on tiny platform or very narrow pieces of ground. You can kind of glide on the walls with the long jump, which is cool. The problem is that sometimes you collide with a piece of wall, which stops you dead on your track, making you fall unexpectedly and curse the god that created you. Meanwhile, you have enemies shooting at you from above, which are quite difficult to spot and kill. As you can see, there are 2 more rooms the Nihilanth teleports you to, and they still involve platforming or mid-air movement control, especially in the 3rd room. Even though these rooms might look uninteresting level design wise, since they all consist in reaching the top, lore wise they are definitely thought in using, since we can spot the corpses of other explorers wearing your same HEV suit. In opposing force you can even spot Colette Green, one of the 2 protagonists of Half-Life Decay, and RIP to her, man. These macabre findings makes me think that other people had been sent before Gordon to explore Xen and maybe to retrieve some crystals, revealing that the consequences of the cascade might not have been so unforeseen after all. Many questions might arise, and in pure Half-Life style, they are gonna be left unanswered. So let's not dwell too much on the lore, since this video is more about level and graphic design. To be honest, I always found the Nihilanth boss fight to be quite a good challenge, and I still find it annoying. His purple attacks are quite deadly, his teleports are annoying, although they come in handy for getting up on HP and ammo if you're low HP, and the jumping over his head is not intuitive at all, and it's not as easy as it seems, since there is only one useful jump pad to reach the Nihilanth enslaved brain, and this jump pad is located on the right of the lowest promontory. Damage his body enough times and he will crack his head open. Jump up to blow his brains out and admire the green and blue fireworks coming out from his head. A true pleasure to watch. To conclude the video, in my view, Xen doesn't appear to be as hard and as badly designed as it is made out to be. Aside from some small details and obscure passages, I think that this alien world level design is very coherent with the challenges the game throws at the player to prepare him for this alien and unknown world. Furthermore, the graphic design makes each chapter stand out from the grey and white claustrophobic corridors and laboratories of the Black Mesa facility. In fact, the expansiveness of Xen feels both like a breath of fresh air, but at the same time it feels kind of scary, because the player was utterly used to staying indoors or in confined outdoor levels. In addition to this, Xen's warm coloring, in fact the landscape exhibits purple, brownish, and dark green hues, make the silent alien universe look more cozy than the facility itself, and it represents a change of pace I've always loved. I'll never forget the sense of wonder and the intrigue the Xen world raised inside the 12-year-old me. So yes, I do like Xen the way it is, and I would never trade it for something more fleshed out, such as, you know what I'm saying, Black Mesa Xen. So I salute you guys, and like and subscribe if you like it. Goodbye.